Welcome everyone to Rewind Recap Relive, where legends and rising stars meet. I'm your host Jonah, and what an episode we have for you today. Saying goodbye to the orange background, we're headed out of October. Last episode, I hope you've enjoyed the month, and today we've got a big hoss edition of the show, bringing on rising star Cypher with former Wyatt Family bludgeon brother, eco-friendly, cage-carrying, at times maniac, Erick Rowan, now Erick Redbeard. But first, let's get into who won that Erick Redbeard t-shirt, next week's episode, and next week's giveaway. Alright, a ton of you guys entered for the Erick Redbeard t-shirt, so let's see who won. Coach C, congratulations, you are the winner. We're going to be in touch about the shirt, and I'd also like to wish a very happy birthday to a long-term fan here at Rewind Recap Relive, Jim Hayes. Happy birthday, man. Enjoy this one from Rewind Recap Relive and myself. We really care about the birthdays here, so if you got one coming up, comment it. Maybe you'll get a shout out too. Happy birthday, Jim. So congratulations are in order there. And what is this that I got here? Well, yes, it's a blank envelope, but inside is next week's guest. At least one half of them, WWE Hall of Famer Bushwhacker Luke will be coming on the show. Not Butch, couldn't make it. And he's coming on with the Congregation. Now, you might remember, if you have a really good memory, the Congregation was mentioned in the Godfather episode because one half of the Congregation is Dashing D1000. So that's right, you got Bushwhacker Luke coming on with the Congregation, Dashing D1000, and Brother Greatness. That's who makes them up. And that is our first tag team edition of the show. You have the chance to win this beautiful 8x10 straight from Bushwhacker Luke himself. All you have to do is comment hashtag R3 giveaway down below in this video. That's hashtag R3 giveaway in the full Cypher and Erick Redbeard interview, and you will be entered to win that amazing WWE Hall of Famer Bushwhacker Luke signed 8x10. Everything is taken care of. All you guys have to do, as usual, is please subscribe to the channel. Keep your eyes open for next week on the show. Great episode with the Congregation and Bushwhacker Luke. You should definitely enter that Bushwhacker Luke 8x10, because you know what I just thought of? Here's Bushwhacker Luke's signature. You could get Butch still. So this 8x10 is definitely for the collector out there. Comment hashtag R3 giveaway for that. Enjoy Cypher and Erick Redbeard. Like this video, share it around, hit the notification bell, ding, ding, ding. You won't miss a thing, and enjoy the show. So, our first guest has been going strong in the business for about 4 years now, often wrestling as part of the Chicago Sideshow, along with one of our previous guests, Nacho Clown. I'd also like to point out that he's close to 7 feet tall. This is Cypher.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Our next guest also stands close to 7 feet tall. He made his name known as WWE for close to 10 years as part of the Wyatt Family Bludgeon Brothers, just to name a few, and is now diving into other outlets to express his creativity. Please welcome Erick Redbeard.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, yeah. So we'll get right into it. So I love starting at the beginning and learning how you decided to journey down the road of professional wrestling. And Cypher, if you could go first and just tell us how you chose that.
With professional wrestling, obviously it was a love, like many people as a young kid in the 90s. My favorite wrestlers were Macho Man Randy Savage, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker.
Yeah.
I wanted to become a wrestler, though, because of indie wrestling. With being in the Chicago area, it's laced with a ton of great promotions, and one of the best that was around at that time was Windy City Pro Wrestling. They would bring in big names and have big talent on the indie scene, and going to those shows is definitely what made me love wrestling as more than just the big show. It was seeing basically superheroes in person when the WWE was not always an option for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, of course. I totally understand that. And Erick, do you resonate with Cypher at all, or is your journey a bit different?
Oh, no, it's definitely the same. You know, you watch, you know, as a little kid, but then you stop for a while, and I think I got back into it in 99, 2000, and my buddies would start watching the pay-per-views, getting me into it, and then guys like resonate with me were like Kane and Test at that time, because they were, you know, guys with similar size and stature.
Exactly, yeah.
I was like, oh, that'd be awesome to me. because that's that superhero you see on TV. And for him to go back and say that he got his love within, the indie wrestling, my journey was the same. Like, I went to some indie shows close to Minnesota because they had a decent indie scene. Not as good as Chicago at that time. But like, you'd see like WWF cruiserweight champion Jerry Lynn. He'd be wrestling at a little armory in Minnesota because he had to, finish up some dates. So like, I'd see these guys I'd see on TV and then you'd see that it was these superheroes. You could attain that if you work hard enough. So going to those shows, you get connections with guys like Eddie Sharkey, who trained me, and that's kind of like how I started my journey.
When you did finally make it to when you were in developmental, then you got to WWE, did you ever incorporate any of those big men that you looked up to back in the day into your in-ring style?
Obviously, going back, it's kind of surreal to think like I would do loops with Kane, or we'd have singles matches, for months on end, and just to pick a guy like that's brain after the matches, and then him to actually give you the time of day to, give his advice. And, most guys won't do that if they don't think you're listening. Mm-hmm. So, you're always listening, you're always learning, no matter how long you've been in the business. I've been wrestling since 2002, and, I'm continuing to learn every day. And those that don't get too big of an ego will continue to learn and continue to get better and perfect their craft, which most wrestlers are very good at.
Yeah, really well said. Cypher, how about you? Is there anyone that you look up to, or that you've actually gotten to work with, that you've taken pieces from to incorporate into your style?
On the bigger names, no, but I've had the opportunity with a lot of companies to talk to people like Lance Archer and Luchasaurus, and being able to ask them what they feel like the indie scene is like nowadays, and the bigger companies. And then there's a lot of guys like Marche Rocket I talk to and try to learn from so much. He's been wrestling for 15, 20 years, and he's one that I always tried to listen to and learn from. Just the little things matter, and it's that stuff that I feel like takes over more than the big moves.
Absolutely. So I'd like to move from style now to your characters, because I feel like they're both very multi-layered. Erick, I'm going to go to you first. And it seems you have such a creative mind for the business. I've seen a lot of the stuff you've done since your departure from WWE, and your mind, it seems like you know your character so well. Very impressive. So I want to get into the specifics now of the Wyatts a little bit, but can you take us on the journey of when you first became Erick Rowan of the Wyatt family? What were you told about your character first off, and then secondly, where did your brain go to kind of manifest that?
It's funny because I was at FCW and they had already given me the name Erick Rowan. On the Indies, I kind of did like a Scandinavian, Viking type gimmick, and I was continuing to do that, trying to, because Vikings will never get over in 2020. But the NXT had switched over from being the contestant base, fiasco it was before Raw and SmackDown, to becoming its own entity and show when Triple H kind of took over, developmental in that way. And they had already debuted Harper with, Wyndham, and they came to me like a week or two before and were like, okay, well, you're going to be the second son of this, what we're going to call the Wyatt family. And other than knowing that it was like kind of a cultish type thing, they had no direction. They didn't know what I was going to wear, nothing. Like, I got the TV that day, I think I had like a pair of like, little trunks, that I was wearing with the belt knot on it. So nothing like relatable to whatever they wanted me to be. And I remember I brought pajamas. I'm like, I can't wear plaid pajama bottoms. Like, what is this guy going to wear? Like, we had done a couple promo weeks where we had tried different things, but not really knowing I was part of the group at that point, because every week we would do promo day with Dusty Rhodes. And so for weeks on end, we tried different things. I remember Wyndham handed me a pile of masks once, and it had like a clear mask. So I decided to cut the bottom of it and, like paint the top of the face. So when you put it on your face, it like looked like you had makeup and weird stuff on.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted the character to be like this mute, sheltered, like, you know, I was a big fan of Texas Chainsaw. Texas Chainsaw 2 is probably one of my favorite horror movies. Some people call it a comedy, but, you know, I find it hilarious. But I liked that kind of character, the quiet, but when it's time to, you know, when you attack his family, he's going to attack, he's going to kill you. And, but there's this other side to him that's, you know, off to a distance. Like, what would a Leatherface movie look like if you just watch Leatherface when he's not killing? You ever wonder that? That's
such an interesting, that's a really interesting thought process there. Yeah. What do they do on their, I guess, their off time?
Yeah. No, so the funny part with the character and all that is I had all these ideas in my head. I just didn't know how to put them all together.
Yeah.
Because usually you're just brought to TV and you're like, okay, go out there and have a match. They don't talk about what the character is because you're not always given a chance to show the character. You can be in the ring and try to do the nuances of the character, but it's not really going to go out and explore every layer of that character because you're just going to see, like Leatherface in a movie, killing somebody. You're not going to see what else he's doing. The power of television, you're able to film different segments, which you don't always get because there's limited time, limited segments, and you have to hit your time. But I remember being at the NXT taping, and then they basically were like, okay, well, what are you going to wear? What do you got? And it's like, well, I brought this. I have a pair of trunks that has no relation to the character, plaid pajamas, pair of blue jeans, but, you know, Harper was already wearing the jeans with the trucker getup from his, you know, big rig gimmick. And I finally found a pair of coveralls I had from doing a reality show in Norway that I just left in my trunk because, you know, I hoard things, which is funny because all these hoarded things I had ended up being part of the character, including the lamb mask.
Yeah.
Just holding on to something for, you know, 6-7 months in the trunk of my car happened to, you know, be there for the vignette. The same reason I happened to have these coveralls. And I said, hey, what if I cut off the sleeves and we'll go out to the ring with them? Hence coveralls that didn't fit me too well. And I had to sew, I had to learn how to sew really quick backstage because you couldn't even do a high boot without it ripping. But yeah, that's kind of how the look came about. And I remember talking to Road Dogg about like what this character should be and how I show it in the ring. And I remember first it started out as like a OCD, autistic, you know, if you saw me and I was tapping the ropes, like I had a tick to me, but I was always looking for approval from Wyndham, which kind of always went back to me always needing approval from either Wyndham or Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you watch our tag matches, even like you don't think about that stuff, but like when we're doing tag matches, I'm always looking to him for approval. I'd always have Harper slap me in the faces in the matches because a big brother, younger brother dynamic would be he can always hit me, but if you hit him, I'm going to kill you.
Right.
It's just lots of little nuances you don't think about at the time, and then you have to make it all work together for the character. And with the Erick Rowan character, and starting with the Wyatts and going to I remember they tried to make me a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I have no control over some of the things that they do on television, but I'm responsible for making the character, giving it the layers on why it's going from this to this. Glenn Jacobs, who's Kane.
Yeah.
Kane never had to say I was a dentist because Kane is a separate character from his dentist character, Isaac Yankem.
Yes.
Where Erick Rowan has to explain, at least in my head, why I have these changes, why I'm in this cult, why I am a prescribed genius, why I don't like bullies, why I carry a cage. I have to continue that arc. So in my head, I constantly had to keep thinking of ways to explain it. That way, if I'm giving a chance to do something backstage, I can try to portray it the best way I can to the audience. Which then it becomes sports entertainment, not necessarily professional wrestling, which is completely different. Yeah, but
right, and it's that love for performing, right? It seems like it's really that love for performing that you have, that you're able to. Maybe not everyone thinks of it that way. It's like a convoluted in a great sense. And if I could, I'm going to throw it to Cypher now. With a character like Cypher, I know he wrestles as both a face and a heel, and he definitely seems to have an interesting dynamic to him. So can you tell us what went into developing him and how you continue to develop him with each match?
So the character of Cypher actually came after my second knee injury. I was out for a while, and I had a terrible character, and it wasn't getting over. I'm trying to figure out, how am I supposed to connect with the crowd? Because it wasn't working. Like, yeah, but there's got to be more to it. I love horror movies, and basically it was just, what do I want to see? What would I like to see in a character nowadays? And Cypher is kind of, in a lot of ways, just me. The parts that I feel like a lot of people have to repress anger and issues that they have. So it's a way for me to put out those ideas and those bad parts of me that I know are not good. So he'll definitely be able to show it. Sideshow, that is an entire beast on itself. It's a carnival. It's a circus. It's a group of people that are completely misunderstood and clowns. But the core of Sideshow is me, Nacho, and Brodie, a trio that just goes around traveling and making jokes, and also sometimes beating each other up. But the biggest part of Cypher, I feel like, is he doesn't really change when he's either good or bad. He is the same. It's just, who is he directing it towards? Is he crowd, or is he directing it towards his opponent? And I think a lot of protector is instilled in the face aspect, because everybody knows what it's like to be weak and to not have somebody fend for you, and nobody to basically stand up. And when it comes to the heel part, it's the unguided part of a person that can turn vicious. That's really how I look at Cypher.
And so I want to get to both of your opinions on this. Cypher, I'll go to you first. When you know that you're going to portray a character, and I know you say he's very much like yourself, but when you do know you're going to portray a character that has to evoke some type of fear or intimidation, maybe on the crowd, does a feeling of trepidation ever set in for that? Are you ever worried that the crowd maybe won't react like you want them to?
No.
No?
Yes, but no. It's a part of me, so it's easy to connect with. And if I don't scare that one person, I'll scare the next.
It's a great response. And Erick, how about yourself? When you knew that you were, crafting, as you just said, this genius misunderstood, did you think the crowd was going to get it like that, or was it going to take time?
Oh, I didn't even get it at first. I'm far from a genius. No, but I was. The funny thing about that genius gimmick is, if you go back, if you fast forward from Bludgeon Brothers to when I was with Daniel for the Planets Championship, and then kind of formed my own before the cage.
Yeah.
That's the genius character I always wanted to be. The guy who's like the serial killer, who is very articulate, who can speak his mind, who calculates in his head what he wants to do, and he has justification for it, no matter how horrible the things he does are. And somebody could always relate to that guy. You sit down and watch some of these serial killer interviews, they totally justify what they do. They don't say, "Oh, I'm a sicko." No, they say, "I just couldn't help myself."
Yeah.
And that's the creepy thing, like when I watch stuff like that. So, like, going back to connecting the dots and trying to make things work, sometimes it's a process on honing who you are and coming into what you want to be. And it takes time. you can't just push people into these gimmicks. You can't just say, okay, carry a cage and expect it to work for the crowd. Especially when it's like saying, okay, we have this great idea for a TV show. Okay, what's the ending of this? The whole season, because the whole season is like built around, like, let's say the cage. Like, okay, this guy's gonna have a cage, and every week you're gonna kind of want to know what's in it. Well, what's in it? I don't know. That show would never get approved, would it?
Yeah, it wouldn't.
No. So sometimes it's difficult to kind of portray what you want to portray when you have no direction on what it is. But sometimes it's kind of fun to have fun with things until you figure that out. That makes any sense.
No, it does. It's always thinking ahead, definitely. Cypher, do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that direction is everything. And when you're given no direction at all, it can work, but it's so much more. It's a shit show then. Like, you're not going to have clarity, and if you don't get it, the fans won't get it.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to connect the dots, as Erick just said. And so I want to transition now, Erick. I've heard you say that you and Brodie or Harper were very close. But can you talk about Bray a little bit? Because right now, obviously, is one of the biggest things going with the Fiend. And I'd just like to know how you two got along when you first – was the Wyatt family the first time you really got to know him, or was there time before?
No, that was like FCW, switch over to NXT.
Yeah.
We're training with guys every day, but we have families of our own outside. But like, some guys would go to the bars, have a clique with people like that. Some guys would ride together in certain groups. So like, that was not the group I was in. I wasn't in hanging out, going to the bars every night. Not at that time, at least. But so it's like you get called up on the road together, and you have to form this relationship. And whether it's a business relationship or it's close, like, you're not going to be the closest with every single one of the people you work with. It's just not possible. You got so much stuff you're doing. It's like, I'm sure on any job, you're not going to be best friends with every single person. So like, relationships take time, and we spent so much time together. It became like it's like a brotherhood, like, personally, me and my brother, we don't talk. We don't get along the best. So it's just the way it is. I talk to him every now and then. I'm happy for what he's doing. But like, as far as us, like, constantly being in contact with each other, it's just not what we're doing.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when you work together, it's business, and you do the best for the business.
Right. And could I get your opinion on what he's doing right now? Because you did get to see how he works with his character on a close level with the Wyatts. What do you think about the Fiend right now? Do you have any opinions on that?
Luckily, he's given a lot of creative freedoms, which plays to his favors, because he does have a creative mind. But there's some things that they do with the character that kind of set it back, and it takes them a while to get back. But he's one of the guys that they want to keep pushing, so he's going to get those chances to fix whatever they do wrong. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So, and Cypher. So I mentioned earlier you do a lot of work, and you just brought it up with the Chicago Sideshow. Are you content staying with them on a team, or do you see more of a branch out in your near future to primarily a singles career? And how do you think that would help Cypher?
I see us staying together for a long time. The thing about the Sideshow is we don't have to always work together to be together. They, along with me, take a lot of bookings that none of us are booked on besides the one. And it's kind of nice when we get together. We're able to really just gel really well together. And that's always going to be a fun part. But when it comes to singles, I definitely do a lot of singles work. I was taking bookings for a lot of places just myself with nobody else. And it's nice to have the guys ride with you, but it's also fun to be the only one they're paying attention to. It's easy when you're a giant for everybody to only pay attention to you.
Yeah. Do you see that when you can stand out on your own on these bookings that you took by yourself, do you think there's a different element to Cypher that you get to express?
It's more serious. When it's Sideshow, it's unintentional comedy, but when it's just me, it's only serious. There's no comedic aspect unless the time right, depending on the character I'm facing.
Gotcha. And Erick, so how about yourself? So much work with the Wyatt, so much work really in teams. Towards the end, you got that kind of singles character that I think you said that you like that a little bit more, being able to express yourself, maybe up until the cage or the end of it. But what do you think? Did you ever want to branch out earlier, or do you think that came at the right time?
Actually, I love tag team wrestling. Like, it's awesome. Like, I'd love to tag with so many different guys just on the independent levels. But obviously, you know, wrestling is, you know, normally known for singles competition. I just love all aspects of wrestling. And no matter what you do in a match, you're always going to get the attention on you. But you need to get over your opponents too. So that's why I think that's why I love tag team wrestling, because you need to get over all four people, not just one person. And I find that very interesting. Or even a 6-man, you got to get over all, you know, 6 guys in that ring.
Yeah,
you need all attention on everybody. You know, you don't want to neglect people. You know, so because that way everybody's eyes are going everywhere. And that's what you want. You want people to be emotionally involved in the match that you're having. And whether it's singles, tag, you know, multi-man, I love the eyes on the match, on what we're doing. Like, that's exciting for me. It doesn't matter what it is. That's why you get into the business.
Yeah. I think that's a really selfless outlook on it all. It really is to want to get just the performance over rather than yourself. That's great. And I want to transition out to the aesthetics that I think really made the Wyatt so memorable. Those early promos with you in the background, Harper, with the facial expressions, the rocking chairs in the cabins in the woods. And can you just talk a little bit about that, the production aspect of growing with the Wyatts?
Oh no, that stuff was great. Like, you know, it felt magical, you know, when it was happening, because it was like, you know, when you go back and see it on film, it's like, shit, that, like, we look like we belong together. Like,
yeah,
and we look like we don't belong in a wrestling ring, but somehow when we had our matches, we look like we belonged. I don't know how that's possible. Like, taking these people that look like they're in the backwoods, putting them in the ring, but it's somehow working, you know, because up to that point, most of the wrestlers in the ring at that point were guys that wore singlets, trunks, and, you know, like even Kane had a singlet for a while. And it's just an interesting aspect to look at. It just brought me back, like, when we were doing it, like, this is special. It's different, you know?
It was definitely different. Yeah. I hadn't seen something like it in a long time. And whose mind was behind a lot of that work, that I guess the promos, maybe, like, you know, the "we're here," different things like that. Did you guys all kind of come up with that together, or was there
I know a lot. That was Wyndham would work with the writers a lot with the verbiage she wanted to say, and then obviously Brodie just doing his wild stuff is all him, and, you know, me doing the weird shit I do, it's all me. It just happened to all work together.
And Cypher, tell me some moments in your career that you're proud of, or you know there's furthered your character.
Well, the debut, I would say it started off as a Halloween Battle Royal, and at the end of it, I got eliminated second to last, and I stood there. They tore down the ring around me, so for an hour I just stood in place. They tore down the entire show, excused all the fans, and then at the beginning of the next show, so an hour before the show starts. Fans start coming in. I'm standing there. I stand through the pre-match. I stand through the first match, and then I just go crazy on the actual first match.
Wow.
And then I don't know if they were cheering because I moved or they were cheering because the big guy finally got out of their viewpoint. But either way, it was definitely one of those moments I felt like showed, hey, I'm a little bit different and I got the size.
That's incredible. I've never heard of that before. That's so cool. Who thought, was that your idea to just stand there like that? Who thought of that? Because then you're thinking ahead too to the next show. Was that you?
It was the booker's idea. It was just, it would be funny. And then I was like, I'm always down to do like it. Whatever the booker wants, I will do. And there's no as long as you can make it make sense with me, I'm gonna do it.
Right. No, absolutely. And so Cypher. So you're essentially your Cypher. That's what you go by from promotion to promotion, right? Did you ever think about adding some type of moniker to it and something that preceded that, or never? Is Cypher? It's a one name. That's your thing.
Well, I feel like it's difficult for me because I'm a big indie fan and a big wrestling fan in general. And anytime I hear somebody announce a big guy, it's always the monster. And I kind of cringe at that because even though it's super descriptive, it's generic. And at times I feel like it's hard to branch out of the shell of somebody's opinion of you too, when they just give you the simple moniker of a monster. Most of the times this is Cypher, but no moniker. I would like one, but just I feel like that's one area I really am lacking at, getting a name on that.
Okay, Eric, do you have any advice learning a bit about the character in these past half hour? Do you know any advice at all on maybe crafting that persona with a name?
I'm not really sure. You can talk about it. You can see kind of like he wears a mask. Don't know what the gear is that he's wearing. I haven't seen the gimmick, so it's kind of hard to give any kind of feedback on any kind of character without seeing anything. So it'll be interesting to see. And now that I'll be, obviously doing a little bit more on the indies, I'm sure I'll see it in the future.
Okay. So, Eric, something specific I want to touch on that I thought was, watching it was one of my favorites, was when the Wyatts went up against the ECW Legends. I thought that was a pretty cool storyline, but I'd like to hear from you how you felt about that. How was that? Who you got along well with? If you thought it meshed well, let's hear your thoughts.
Oh, no. I thought the whole thing worked out pretty good. The boys in the back gave me a standing ovation, which is great. They got a big old pop for me.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah.
No, it was funny because when Braun came in, me and Harper became the guys that would take the pin all the time. So for weeks and weeks and weeks, it would be like, okay, I'm gonna take the pin. And I remember we had the elimination match at TLC, the tables match. And I remember I got eliminated first. And none of the other Wyatts got eliminated in the match. Just me. And so there was always a joke about it. And then we ended up being, I think it was in Philly, we had that big blow-off match with Rhino. You remember that one?
Yeah, I remember when Rhino. Absolutely. No, that's what I think that's what I'm mainly referring to. Yeah.
Yes. So I remember we were backstage going through that match, and the finish was going to be Wyndham, and I kept on saying we need to be a unit. Like I never pitched for myself to go over once the whole time I was there, and this time I was like, well, maybe this time you actually let me take the pin because I was the first one eliminated. Let's tell that story of a family and finally giving me a victory. Kind of like a story within a story. Yeah. Because if I'm always the one taking the brunt so you guys can win, why not have me help you guys actually win one. And then we actually are looked at more of a threat. Because I think the problem with the Wyatts toward the end was we became too much of just being foils every week, if that makes any sense. Where they didn't know how to get rid of Braun half the time because they wanted to protect him. And
Gotcha.
they had to think of creative ways to get him out of sight, out of mind for a match. Which was always a fun challenge to do, especially on a lot of these house shows where Bray and Harper would be on one loop, and then me and Braun would be on another loop tagging. So like they'd split the Wyatt family up for house show loops. So like we'd always have to constantly think of things for Braun to do. I remember one time this is off topic, but it's a funny story. We were working New Day. Yeah. We were working New Day, and Braun was, pretty much brand new. And we tried to work out ways, and it ended up just getting to the point where we just got him in during the heat, the big cutoff and and I remember I'd never worked so hard in my life. Like we do 25-minute matches, and I'd be in the whole damn match. And he'd come in during the comeback and then take a low bridge. Okay, we got rid of him. Like just funny things like that.
That's so funny.
But
yeah.
But going back to working with the ECW guys, they were great to work. I love those kind of matches because they're just barbaric and action everywhere. The psychology to those matches is just beat the shit out of each other, basically. But that's why I tried to think about psychology within psychology, trying to tell a story within it, which, it's kind of hard to think about when matches like that. But it's funny because I think I came off the top with the splash on the Rhino, break the table 1-3. And I come to the back, and if the boys in the back are surprised you won, you did your job. That means people at home are surprised I won. Yeah,
I was actually shocked from the splash primarily because had you been doing that leading up to it, or it was fairly new, wasn't it? The splash.
I have a feeling guys are too hung up on the big moves they do and not enough about the stories. If you ever watch back on matches I did, the only times they ever came off the top rope were in big pay-per-views, or if I hit it and won a match. I think I've hit it twice, and I won both those matches. One was against the poor Miz. He was terrified to take that move from me, but at the end he was like, "Huh, I didn't feel it."
He was scared leading up to it.
I mean, they booked me at 315, but I weighed 340, so I was.
Oh wow, they went lower.
It was always odd to me. They always underbooked my weight. Guys are going to pick me up and be like, "Wow, you're 315?" Like, no, I'm 340. But yeah, those matches with the Dudleys and Rhino, and they're great. Like all those guys. So it's always fun to work with those guys. I think one of my favorite matches was actually just working a random main event match versus Rhino in singles. Like just little things like that were fun to me. So. Little things that stick out.
Right. And Cypher, you ever come off with a splash?
I've done second rope leg drop, but I haven't done the big splash.
Not yet. Is that what do you think about that, Eric? You think that's a thing he should try in the future? You think it gets a big pop, or is that something?
I saw Braun try to do a splash from the top once. I think he did it on the Seth, and he almost tripped up on top. This was at one of the pay-per-views. So sometimes the splash really isn't always the best. Risk versus reward. Hell, I remember doing a second rope superplex, but Gallows was on the top, and he fell down. But I had to grab him to make sure he didn't fall off the rope.
God.
He missed his footing. It felt like 30 seconds to do the superplex. It was probably 15 seconds. The crowd just sitting there like, and me being like, "I'm not dropping this guy on live television." We get to the back, and I say, "You okay? What happened?" He's like, "I've always given them. I've just never taken one." and Gallows been around a long time, so I was like, It very much surprised me. So whenever you're doing a move, make sure the other guy knows how to take it.
It's definitely good advice.
And you know
I would
how to
say.
give it.
Yeah. So Cypher, I've seen you cut some pretty intense promos on your social media in some of the promotions. Can you tell me, was it ever a challenge to be convincing? I know you talked about earlier to scare the crowd, not really a challenge, but what about to get that across verbally?
I wouldn't say it was as much of a challenge, just that I'm getting the point across. I always believe in checking with the promoter beforehand and like make sure like, hey, where is this direction going? And when it comes to what I say, it kind of turns into a blur. It's just, I just let go. And I double check it to make sure I didn't say the same word like 3 times because I have a habit of that. But no, it's always fun. I love promos. I feel like that is the best way to tell leading up to the match the story. Like it's simple, but it means so much. And there's a lot of guys that just don't do that nowadays, at least on the smaller scene. Like they don't make promos. They just put up the flyer and that's kind of it. Like, why not? What is it going to hurt? You're only going to get better, hopefully, by doing more.
Yeah. And Eric, do you have anything to say to that? Any advice to Cypher on how to maybe get your point across? I know you started to cut promos a little later on, but they were still just as intense. So.
Oh no, I think the best stories are always the stories that are told through verbal altercations, and you can do it other ways. It doesn't always have to be verbal. You can make a little video package of you going to your opponent's sister's house. You know, you coming out of the door. Like that's going to cause some major heat right there. But it's there's always creative ways to tell a story. Even on these smaller shows, if they have a little projection screen, they can put up on the projection screen something like that, where the guy's just coming out of the sister like, "Oh, who are you?" And it's like, "What are you doing here?" It's like a fake news guy. You know, it's a, private investigator. I knew you were with her. And then there you go. You have yourself a little thing in front of however many people you got there. They've all seen it. And then you have that heat because people can relate to that. But no, to me, if you've given the time to have a promo, it will make the story better. And unfortunately, on a big, multi-million-dollar company, sometimes they don't have the television time to give everybody those promos, which is really sad because there's so many guys up that are so talented that don't even get a chance to speak. And it really sucks. And some guys are still up there, and hopefully they get their chance to actually have that voice. But so many times guys like, Curtis Axel, Joe Henning, I wish he would have been able to be Joe Henning. I'm talking him into getting out on the independent scene as Joe Henning. Be himself. Yeah. Be that perfect man that he is. Be that beer drinking, guzzling fool that I know he is. He loves that cold beer. So put that out into his character. It's just a guy like that. If he's given a microphone and he's given purpose, like he can deliver. And he was very, undervalued there. And it's amazing the power a promo can have. And unfortunately, a lot of guys aren't given that time. Even I've seen on these independent shows, like he was saying, like these guys are not even given the opportunity because that's not what they want. They just want the high work rate match, and that's what they think the fans want and need. And to an extent, I think that's what they want. I don't think it's what professional wrestling needs. But every opinion up to his own, and but promos are very important.
Definitely help tell the story. I love that what you brought up, that possibility of what coming out of the opponent's sister's house. I don't think I've seen that. If I have, I don't remember. But you think Eric Rowan would have ever done that, or a different character, right?
I think that's more of a Dolph Ziggler thing.
Yeah, me too. And so, Eric, something I found interesting that you started doing at some point was wearing a lot of band T-shirts, right? And Harper, at one point, I think, started wearing them too, or maybe a few times. Can you tell us how that came about? Because after years of just seeing wrestlers don the, no other logo other than their own, how did you get that approved? How did it come about? I thought it was so interesting.
I've always hidden in plain sight in major companies like WWE, which is amazing to me. No, they took away the mask, which was my form of talking without talking, because I wasn't always given the promo time. And I was like, how can I show a little bit of my personality without speaking like I did with the masks? That's why I always had different mask made, the gas mask one. Like I had different things made to kind of show like I had different sides to me. I had the clown one made, like just an example. And then when they said, okay, well, you're not with the Bludgeon Brothers no more, you're going to be with Daniel Bryan as a bodyguard, but you guys are going to eventually be equals. And I was like, we'll see if that happens. Which ended up turning into a story. But I remember the first day they were like, okay, we want you to dress like Daniel Bryan. We're going to cut your beard even. Like they wanted him to cut this nice and short. Like they wanted me to look like him. Like, can we do a little makeup and make his ears like different? Like, true story. And I remember I found out, I was like, okay, it's like we're at TV. They had already given me a couple like plaid shirts to kind of look like them. So then they were about to go. I think Dean Malenko came up to me. He's like, okay, we got to get you, to makeup and we're gonna cut your beard. And I said, no, we're gonna talk to Vince. So go into Vince's office and basically said, before I start cutting the beard off and making permanent changes to the way I look, can we discuss what exactly you want out of this? And then it ended up being, oh, I don't want you to be a parody of him. I was like, okay, I kept the beard. And then
oh, that's great.
So I ended up wearing the shirts and jeans, had a pair of Chucks, and then I'm like, all right, what else do I got in my bag? And I was like, well, Tom Savini, him and his company made the sheet masks that I had. So I was like, how can I show homage to him? Okay, well, I had a Tom Savini t-shirt that I wore out at the Royal Rumble that week. And then it turned like, okay, well, no way in hell I'm going to wear a horror movie shirt every week, because that's just not going to happen. I don't have that many shirts. And I was like, what? And it happened on a Sunday, so like Monday and Tuesday I have TV for Raw and SmackDown. I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to wear? And I was like, oh, okay. I have plenty of rock shirts, like metal shirts. And so I just started wearing a different one every show. And I just didn't tell anybody.
Really? That's how that happened?
That's how it happened. I didn't tell anybody. And nobody told me to stop. And I think .com started like showing like every metal shirt I was wearing. And in the mail, I was getting packages from record labels, with, tons of t-shirts and vinyls. And like, I was like, please, I love music. And, it's through that love of music. I did Monomarth's music video for their last album. So like my love of music got me to get a lot of connections within the music world, but then wearing these shirts gave me a little bit more attention with that music world, which is pretty cool, because it gave them attention on a national scale. And it just, another one of those things. It's like, how do you get yourself to stand out if they don't let you speak?
Exactly.
And show a little bit of yourself. And then telling that Erick Rowan story of, well, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy. Well, now he doesn't have a mask. He's not really that Leatherface character. Who is he? Well, he's just, guy who likes going to metal shows. Excuse my language.
And one quick more specific before I ask Cypher. Eric, so one of my favorite moments, another one, was when the New Day actually impersonated the Wyatt family. And as funny as it was on screen, can you tell us what was happening backstage, maybe the lead up for that? Did the Wyatts have any input backstage on how they thought the New Day should look, or what are your thoughts on that? I thought it was hilarious.
We didn't see it till it happened. And
really? Okay.
Kofi's booty dance, I didn't appreciate.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't appreciate that.
So you didn't see it until it happened. What about when they came to the back? Were you guys around or no?
Oh yeah, they're laughing. They're always
everyone's
laughing. They're always laughing. No, but it's all good. I love those guys.
That's awesome. So you had a good time. What about the Wyatt compound match that you had with them? How was that to film?
You know what? That was way more physical than they even showed. Like,
really?
There's so much, like, there was stuff with me and Ettore on the car, his head banging all over it, like me going into the trunk. Like, there was violent, bumps we took out, that they didn't even show because the weird ways they cut stuff. I remember I tried to. It looked like I was trying to drown poor Kofi in the water. we had all these different things. Braun, like being Braun, tries to run full speed into a pickup truck, knowing full well he's going to cut himself up on the glass. Well, people don't realize that was a real car and real glass. It wasn't the fake glass. And I remember joking with him. I said, "Hey man, you're going to go through this, and people online are going to say, oh, that was fake. That's fake glass." This guy's got a huge cut, gash, just going in the mud. And I'm like, oh man, clean this up. No, but definitely a lot more physical, and it took a couple more days to film than it was supposed to. And I remember we were up all night, all 6 of us, and it was miserable mosquitoes. And this was in Florida, and we had to catch a early flight to get to Toronto to do the show that night. Basically, we all landed, got to the arena, put on our boots and stuff, and went straight out to the ring and wrestled in Toronto.
Wow.
Like, people don't understand. Yeah, people don't understand how busy we were.
I think the perception's always skewed, from the viewers to what all the work you guys do. The perception is definitely always skewed when it comes to that.
You're like on 2-3 hours of sleep. I don't even know how long travel took that day. And then you go straight to the ring, and then after that you have to drive to the next town. So that was miserable. But it prepares you for other things. I remember I did a movie that had like 10-hour days, and like you're out in like blistering heat with like multiple layers on, and I'm like, they're like, all right, lunch. I'm like, lunch? We get time to have lunch? He's like, yeah, because like SAG has a union that protects you, but that's a whole other story.
Definitely is. And Cypher, so I know you've held 2 heavyweight titles from your singles career, right? Can you tell me what that does to you, the faith that a promoter has in you to put the world title on you, and how you felt when that happened?
Definitely feel like what I'm doing is right.
Right.
Basically, you're, depending on the company, you're the guy that they expect to be there, to be the leader, to get the show where they need to at the end. You got to perform the best that you can, and you got to leave them wanting to come back. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely an honor anytime. Yeah, there's certain aspects that go into getting the title, but it's nothing but humbling, I feel like.
It's a great way to describe it. And with the current landscape of wrestling being what it is, a lot of opportunities, some may say, to make that break. So knowing Cypher, as you do obviously, where would you want to end up that you think would work for you in the future?
Well, I still have ideas of right now. I want to get more seasoned, definitely traveling more of the United States, but in the future, I would like to start heading towards different countries and doing shows out that way, whether it be Japan or Europe, Canada, Mexico. That's definitely what I would like to aspire to do in the next upcoming years.
And are there dream matches that exist for you right now that you think you could really put on a good show with anybody that you see?
Well, I mean, definitely would like to do a match with Erick.
What would something like that look like?
That'd be a nice hoss match.
Yeah, a nice big hoss match, right? Eric, what do you think? Any thoughts on that?
House matches are always good. I remember one of my favorite live event matches was against big old Jack Swagger. So I love me a house match.
And so for my next question for Eric, then what can you tell us some of your favorite moments from WWE that you reflect on fondly?
I mean, I'm very particular to the Bludgeon Brothers stuff. Like, I really like that because for so long, me and him fought for, either singles or, in a group with the Wyatts, that we wanted to have each other's backs. We wanted to get each other over. And, for the most part, I felt like we attained that with such being told what you were going to do. You're going to have to carry around hammers. He felt like that was like going to be like a major negative. But for some reason, I always felt like that run that we had, as far as like the work we did, even though it was, limited as far as like what we could do in the ring, like because we were told certain times not to go out and have the best match. Yeah. But to tell a story about the Bludgeons, I guess, I thought it worked, and I reflect, very kindly on that stuff. I'm very proud of like the last single stuff I had before the cage, with Daniel and Rowan, because like, to work with guys like that, even to work with Seth for a while, like just to have that spotlight, because all those guys are tremendous, tag wrestlers, but they're also tremendous single wrestlers because they love all aspects of wrestling. It's just why it works. I reflect really good on that. And obviously, early Wyatt Family stuff when we first debuted, just because of how special it was.
Yeah. And it definitely was. Quickly with the Bludgeon Brothers, when you guys did first debut, who thought of the Bludgeon Brothers? Who came to you with that? And then did you kind of go somewhere else with Erick Rowan in your mind? Or was that kind of a similar character?
No, it's funny. I definitely kind of took a little 180 with the Erick Rowan character, because I remember I was trying to pitch a character to Vince that was, if you watch like a earlier Talking Smack that I was on, that was my pitch to Vince on what I wanted my character to be. He actually walked with me to the thing and wanted to know how the Talking Smack went, and that he was going to watch it, because I pitched him this idea of a multiple personality guy, because I had all these different masks made, and I wanted every mask to be an extension of my character, which would be that Leatherface character. That one that where he puts on a mask, he identifies with it. People can see like that's a clown. So that's when I am having fun. This is fun. Like I would do things like come out with, balloons and pop in front of little kids and make them cry if I'm a heel. Yeah. Which was probably the funnest time I ever had in live events, coming out with a, clown mask.
You did that on YouTube on your own at first, right? You were doing those on your own?
Oh yeah. I was doing that on my own, and then it turned into they wanted to do something with Harper too. They wanted us back together, but then they didn't want us to be what we were. So that's how the Bludgeons kind of happened. Luckily, I was able to talk him into getting his own mask for the entrance, which I thought fit great. And that was another one that Tom Savini did with the skull. But yeah, man. We were told we're going to be the Bludgeon Brothers. That is the name. We were at first given like Demolition's like they chose a picture of us in Demolition, kind of like dominatrix gear, which had our looked like coveralls with leather, and we were like no. So we had I had a friend of mine that does a little design work. She worked on like what I wanted these outfits to look like. And then they kind of put their hint on it. They had the Bludgeon symbol already made. They wanted these hammers, which my buddy actually, he the Tom Savini guy, Jason Baker, he actually made the hammers, and they're heavy and solid. And actually, both of our, I had him write inscriptions in old Nordic runes
That's so
of
cool. Wow.
each of our children's names. When we carried his hammers out, the hammers were a little different. Mine looked more like a Thor's hammer. His was more like a block clown hammer. His had his son's name on it at the time. I had my son and daughter's names carved in mine. Like, so we made it us,
Yeah.
you know, and everything just happened to work out. It was weird putting on these outfits at first because it doesn't feel like it's you, because it wasn't entirely your idea.